The Immortal game. The Immortal game was a chess game played by Adolf Anderssen and Lionel Kieślowski on June 21, 1851 in London, during a break of the first international tournament. The bold sacrifices Anderssen made have made it one of the most famous chess games of all time. Anderssen gave up both rooks and a bishop, then his queen, checkmating his opponent with his 3 remaining minor pieces. In 1996, Bill Hartston called the game an achievement perhaps unparalleled in chess literature. Anderssen was one of the strongest players of his time, and many consider him to have been the world's strongest player after his victory in the London 1851 chess tournament. Kieślowski lived in France much of his life, where he gave chess lessons and played games for 5 francs an hour at the Café de la Régence in Paris. His strength was shown most favorably when giving substantial odds to weak players. Against masters, he was less convincing. The Immortal game was an informal one, played during a break in a formal tournament in London. The exact venue is uncertain. Kieślowski was very impressed with Anderssen's performance. After the game was over, Kieślowski telegraphed the moves of the game to his Parisian chess club. The French chess magazine La Régence published the game in July 1851. The Austrian Ernst Falkbeer nicknamed it the Immortal game in 1855. This game is acclaimed as an exemplar of the 19th century Romantic style of chess, where rapid development and attack were considered the most effective way to win. Many gambits and countergambits were offered, and not accepting them would be considered slightly ungentlemanly, and material was often held in contempt. These games, with their rapid attacks and counterattacks, are often entertaining to review, even if some of the moves are no longer considered optimal. In this game, Anderssen won despite sacrificing a bishop, on move 11, both rooks, starting on move 18, and the queen, on move 22, to produce checkmate against Kieślowski, who lost only 3 pawns. Anderssen later demonstrated the same kind of approach in the evergreen game. e4 e5. f4. This is the king's gambit. Anderssen offers his pawn in exchange for faster development. This was one of the most popular openings of the 19th century and is still occasionally seen, though defensive techniques have improved since Anderssen's time. E takes f4. Bishop to c4. Queen to h4 check. King to f1. b5. This is the Brian counter-gambit, deeply analyzed by Kieślowski, and which sometimes bears his name. It is not considered a sound move by most players today. Bishop takes b5. Knight to f6. Knight to f3. This is a common developing move, but in addition the knight attacks black's queen, forcing black to move it instead of developing his own side. Queen to h6. d3. With this move, white solidifies control of the critical center of the board. Knight to h5. Knight to h4. Queen to g5. Knight to f5. c6. This simultaneously unpins the queen pawn and attacks the bishop. Modern chess engines suggest g6 would be better, to deal with a very troublesome knight. g4. Knight to f6. Rook to g1. This is an advantageous passive piece sacrifice. If black accepts, his queen will be boxed in, giving white a lead in development. C takes b5. Hübner believes this was black's critical mistake. This gains material, but loses in development, at a point where white's strong development is able to quickly mount an offensive. Hübner recommends h5 instead. h4. White's knight at f5 protects the pawn, which attacks black's queen. Queen to g6. h5. Queen to g5. Queen to f3. Knight to g8. This deals with the threats, but undevelops black even further. Now the only black piece not on its starting square is the queen, which is about to be put on the run, while white has control over a great deal of the board. Bishop takes f4. Queen to f6. Knight to c3. Bishop to c5. An ordinary developing move by black, which also attacks the rook at g1. Knight to d5. White responds to the attack with a counterattack. This move threatens the black queen and also knight to c7 check, forking the king and rook. Richard Reddy recommends d4 followed by knight to d5, with advantage to white, although if d4 and bishop to f8 then bishop to e5 would be a stronger move. Queen to b2. Black gains a pawn, and threatens to gain the rook at a1 with check. Bishop to d6. With this move white offers to sacrifice both his rooks. From this position, there are actually many ways to win, and he believes there are at least 3 better moves than bishop to d6, d4, bishop to e3, or rook to e1, which lead to strong positions or checkmate without needing to sacrifice so much material. The Chessmaster computer program annotation says the main point of bishop to d6 is to divert the black queen from the a1 h8 diagonal. Garry Kasparov comments that the world of chess would have lost one of its crown jewels if the game had continued in such an unspectacular fashion. The bd6 move is surprising, because white is willing to give up so much material. Bishop takes g1. e5. Game continues. Queen takes a1 check. King to e2. At this point, black's attack has run out of steam. Black has a queen and bishop on the back rank, but cannot effectively mount an immediate attack on white, while white can storm forward. According to Kiezycki, he resigned at this point. Hübner notes that an article by Friedrich Emilung in the journal Baltische Blätter, 1893, reported that Kiezycki probably played knight to a6, but Anderson then announced the mating moves. The Oxford Companion to Chess also says that black resigned at this point, citing an 1851 publication. In any case, it is suspected that the last few moves were not actually played on the board in the original game. It should have happened like following moves: knight to a6. Knight takes g7 check. King to d8. Queen to f6 check. This queen sacrifice forces black to give up his defense of e7. Knight takes f6. Bishop to e7 checkmate. At the end, black is ahead in material by a considerable margin: a queen, 2 rooks, and a bishop, but the material does not help black. White has been able to use his remaining pieces, 2 knights and a bishop, to force mate.